Hey everyone, David Tarras, head of the Federal Criminal Defense Practice at the Rosson Law Firm. Today we're going to be talking about grand juries, specifically their investigative role, as well as the role the grand jury plays in the charging process and the actual bringing criminal charges against a person in the federal justice system. And grand juries are everything. Every case is required, unless the attorney or the accused waives their right to a grand jury. Every case does proceed to a grand jury. For a grand jury, which is 16 to 23 people who are chosen through the jury duty process, are convened to decide whether or not probable cause exists to indict somebody with a federal crime. Grand juries play the essential role in the federal justice system for charging an individual with a crime, but they also play an investigative role as well. So in a lot of other videos, we've talked about different ways that the Department of Justice, that the federal government uses the tools that they have to investigate and ultimately prosecute somebody. The grand jury is a huge part of that. Grand juries, certainly in larger cases, such as former President Donald Trump case, can be used over a period of months, sometimes potentially up to 18 months. Now that's in the most serious of cases, but that's how long a grand jury lasts for technically, how long they're sworn in for. But a grand jury will be presented with evidence by a prosecutor and by their agents, as well as individuals who are subpoenaed to either testify or produce evidence or documents to a grand jury. Now, the grand jury process in the federal justice system is extremely mysterious, okay? The only people in that room are witnesses, a prosecutor, any of their agents, law enforcement, as well as the grand jurors themselves. The defense lawyer plays no role. We're not allowed inside of the room, and there's no judge inside of the room as well. So it's a very, very as one-sided of a process as could possibly exist in the justice system. So we have to do what we can as a defense attorney when we can. One of the most important roles that we play in the grand jury process, because we can't be in the room, is responding, helping our client respond to a grand jury subpoena if they receive one or if their company were to receive one. Now, grand jury subpoenas are legally enforceable requests that are made to a person or to a business, either for testimony, ordering that person to appear on a certain date, or ordering that person to produce documents or records or other sort of stored media or devices to the grand jury, which the prosecutor will then present in the form of evidence. Sometimes it can also be a combination of both. If you do receive a grand jury subpoena, or if your company receives a grand jury subpoena, you want to contact a federal criminal defense attorney immediately, because you do have options with that subpoena. Okay, if we're notified early enough, we can review the subpoena. We can see if it is, in fact, legally binding. We can see if what the subpoena requests is far too burdensome, or if it puts our client in a position that will force them to give up their Fifth Amendment right by producing the documents. Well, we can analyze that and analyze the law as it relates to that, because these subpoenas can be very intrusive. They can ask for documents or testimony to things that can definitely hurt you if provided. And the federal government will very often look for a way to issue a grand jury subpoena without making the target of the investigation, the potential defendant, if this is our client, to come in before the grand jury, because of course we're just going to have our client always, if they're required to come, say, we're not answering any questions, we're exercising our Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, but we can't be in the room as the attorney, which is scary. So they'll use these subpoenas to try and find a back way around that in many cases, especially if they do subpoena your company or a records custodian of your company. There are many nuanced laws regarding what they can and can't get from your corporation when you are the target, when you're the person that they're trying to charge, that they want the grand jury to bring back an indictment on. You do need a very experienced criminal defense attorney to know the law and the nuances related to that. We have that ability here at the Rosson Law Firm. So if you do receive a federal grand jury subpoena for whatever it may be, please do not hesitate to contact us. We can have a free strategy session on how to combat that. Thanks.